Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Alexia and I'm pregnant. So this video is basically just gonna be a complete recap of my first trimester. I wasn't making very much content through my first trimester. Unless you're following me on TikTok and Instagram, then you've probably been keeping up with things, but YouTube wise, I haven't really fully been invested in it, but I'm ready to get back into things. I'm just gonna go through like my whole first trimester. I'm not gonna go like week by week because I just wasn't tracking it week by week and paying attention to symptoms each week. I have a baby to take care of now, so I'm not like paying attention so closely like my first pregnancy. I'm still just gonna go through my whole first trimester, my symptoms, things that were different this time versus last time, a whole bunch of stuff. And I also asked y'all on Instagram anything that you wanted to make sure that I included in this video, so I've got some of that too. So it's kind of like a first trimester Q&A in a way. So let's just get into it. And I also might include the TikTok that I made from my very first ultrasound appointment. I don't have a video of any of my other appointments, but I do have a small clip of that. So I guess I'm just gonna get started with my symptoms. With this first trimester, I have had nausea, I've had throwing up, I've had food aversions, I've had dizziness, I've had fatigue, some light cramping, an increase in my sex drive, and I had a little bit of insomnia at first. I'm not really having it anymore, but I'm just gonna dive into those symptoms a little bit. I'm gonna explain kind of like how they've been for me this time versus last time, and also just in general. For starters, we're just gonna go into the morning sickness. That's like the nausea, throwing up, and aversions. I have not had any cravings really. Like, it's one of the biggest struggles that I've had with this pregnancy so far is not being able to eat. So I definitely haven't been having cravings. I'm hoping that I'll start to kind of get some cravings soon to help with my appetite, but so far I just have a super severe aversion to literally everything. Like, there's almost nothing that sounds like I could stomach it, if that makes any sense. Like, everything just sounds so disgusting and I want nothing to do with it. So the food aversions have been a really big negative symptom of this one, I guess you could say. Like, I just feel like I did not struggle with food aversions nearly as bad with Bentley as I have this time. I started to struggle with them at the end of the second trimester, but then it got better. Like, it was not the same. But with Bentley, I was much less sick. So I would get nausea and I would be kind of nauseous here and there throughout the day, but it was manageable. There was things that I could do to control it and I wasn't throwing up all the time. This time it started later. Like, I didn't start getting sick until a little later in the pregnancy than with Bentley, but I've been much more sick. Like, I've been actually throwing up multiple times a day. I've been put on medications by my doctor that are sometimes helping, sometimes not. So it's a lot less manageable, and I'm just kind of like trying to get through every day, trying to stay positive, keep a good headspace about the whole thing, and knowing that it's temporary also helps. Like, I know it's going by so fast. I'm literally already like done with the first trimester and it's flying by. So that's also helping with, I don't know, coping with all of it. Dizziness and fatigue, I mean, I feel like all of these things could all tie into the whole food aversion sickness thing. That's gonna contribute to being extra tired and extra dizzy. I've had my blood taken and tested. My levels should all be good. So it just is what it is. But yeah, I have been having some dizzy spells, no fainting or anything, but obviously always keeping an eye on it. And then just fatigue. Fatigue is so normal. Fatigue is normal in your literal entire pregnancy. They say that it gets better in the second trimester. And I will say that your energy typically does get a little better in the second trimester, but really, like, being pregnant is just tiring. Okay, so light cramping. Light cramping to me, like, I think that anybody can relate when I say that any cramping at all in pregnancy is nerve-wracking and gives you anxiety. But some cramping is normal, and I feel like that was one of the things in my first pregnancy that nobody talked about, because it's one of those symptoms that just like you kind of forget about and you don't think about, and then you get cramps and you're like freaking out because nobody else talks about cramps and you think something's wrong. Things are stretching like crazy. Like, if I think about it and really break it down, like, my baby right now is the size of a lemon. That's actually pretty big. So things have stretched a lot. My uterus has already stretched a lot. Like, it's not gonna just be easy. So it makes sense that there would be some light cramping, and I definitely wanted to include that in this video because it was something that I really barely heard about, and only heard about in a negative way with my first pregnancy. So it's been a lot nicer this time knowing that like some cramping is normal. Obviously you don't want it to be crazy severe. Obviously you don't want it to be paired with bleeding, but some light cramping is normal. Now, the fun symptom, my libido. My libido is way up. If you don't know what that word means, Google it, because that's not my job. I am not your teacher for that. But my libido is so high, which is very odd compared to Bentley. Like with Bentley, I wanted nothing to do with it. I've talked about this on TikTok. I didn't want to be looked at, touched, complimented. Like don't you know what I mean? Like I just was so not interested, and it was something that like actually weighed on me super heavy in my last pregnancy, and it would really frustrate me. And I was like, I mentally wanted it but physically just couldn't get there, if that makes any sense. And so I hated that, but it's been a lot better this time, and I've been very much so interested this time, which is different. And then the insomnia. So at the very beginning of my pregnancy, I was definitely struggling with insomnia, and I don't know if it's just because when you find out you're pregnant, there's so many things spiraling in your head that it's just hard to go to sleep at night. You're thinking about a million things 100% of the time. But whenever I started to get really, really sick in my pregnancy, I went on medicine, one of those things being Unisum at night, which is also a sleep aid. And I think that that's kind of what's helped my insomnia not be so bad. But typically what I would be doing is taking the Zofran in the morning and the Zofran at night, and then also the Unisum at night. And that was really like the combination that worked the best. Don't do that every day. I haven't been doing that for a while. And for the most part now, the Zofran, Unisum, and my prenatal all at night, and that's about it. So it's getting a lot better. It started to get better around 11 weeks. It started to kind of taper off a little bit. And then week 12, it was a little bit rough, and there was a couple of days that I threw up a good couple of times, but I still think it's getting better. I'm really hoping that I can get my eating under control and be able to eat a little bit better, because I feel like that's just gonna make light years of difference with everything, and also make my anxiety better because I have lost so much weight. My pre-pregnancy weight for this pregnancy was over 145, under 150. It varied, you know what I mean? But it was somewhere in that range. Right now I'm dipping under 130. So losing a lot of weight, losing a lot more weight than with Bentley, but keeping our thoughts positive and moving forward and celebrating every time I'm able to eat. So one of the questions that you guys asked was, when did I start feeling sick? I don't know if I mentioned this already, so I am going to talk about it. I started to feel sick around 7 weeks. That's when it really, really kicked in. At the beginning of my pregnancy, I was thinking, this is great. Like, this is going to be better than my last pregnancy. Like, I'm not feeling sick. I'm not feeling bad. And then it hit. It just hit way later. So with Bentley, I was already so nauseous before I ever took a test. Like, I knew I needed to take a pregnancy test because I was sick. And I had every symptom in the book with Bentley. This pregnancy, if I wasn't sick, I swear I would not even, like, hardly feel pregnant. Like, it's really just the sickness that's been getting to me. But even still, I feel like I've been handling it better than my last pregnancy. But 7 weeks is when it really, like, really started beating me up, you know? Another question, how's being postpartum and pregnant? Are you feeling better or feeling worse? So being postpartum and pregnant is a whirlwind of emotions. Like, it's a lot. Finding out, and I don't know, like, I'm sure it's probably different for people that plan it and do it on purpose. Now, I had mixed feelings because we were talking about starting to try to conceive, but we weren't, like, actually decided yet, and we definitely weren't trying yet. And I wanted a couple of more months at least before starting to try for another baby, but God had other plans. So it wasn't like as much of a shock as if we weren't already talking about it. Like, at least there was already some mental prep going on, but it was very, very shocking. But I think that I'm feeling better. I know that a lot of you guys know that I was struggling with postpartum depression right after my son. A couple of months before getting pregnant is when that started to really get better and lighten up for me. And then whenever the hormones started hitting me from the pregnancy, before I knew I was pregnant, I had like a dip again in my mental health, just like not knowing what was going on and feeling super low and emotional, and then like beating myself up about feeling emotional because I didn't know why I was so emotional, even though now I know that it was because I was pregnant. And it all makes sense. But yeah, it's actually been a lot better ever since, like, finding out I was pregnant, coping with that information, and getting excited about it. I feel like my mental health has been really, really good. I've also just been, I think, taking care of myself a lot better and recognizing stuff within myself and recognizing when I need to take a step back, take a break, protect my peace, and I feel like that's been a really big help. Handling pregnancy and sickness with a baby to care for. So what I'll say on that is it is not easy. Don't let anybody fool you into thinking it's easy, and don't let anybody make you think that you are less than, because it's not easy. Taking care of a baby while you're pregnant is hard. Doing anything while you're pregnant is hard. Working a job while you're pregnant is hard. Existing while you're pregnant is hard. Don't let anybody tell you that pregnancy is easy. Just because somebody else had an easy pregnancy does not mean that yours is wrong or that you're weak because yours isn't. Every single pregnancy is different, and I'm a testament of that because my pregnancies are like almost polar opposites of each other. There are similarities, but there are so many differences, and that's within the same person carrying a baby, you know what I mean? So if my own pregnancies can vary so much, then obviously a completely different person's pregnancy is going to be different, you know? You gotta have grace with yourself because there are some mornings that it's hard to get out of bed. There are some mornings that it's hard to make breakfast, or there's days where I'm throwing up all the time, and you just have to be patient with yourself. You have to be patient with your partner. You have to communicate with your partner if you have that outlet. If you still have your partner with you helping with the baby, then communicate with them on the days that you're feeling extra low that you need help. And there's nothing wrong with needing help. But I just try to be graceful with myself and forgiving and remind myself all of the like positive affirmations that I need to of like, I'm growing a baby, I'm doing a great job, I love my son, I care for my son, I comfort my son, I do everything I can for my son, and that's everything that you can do, is do everything you can, you know? All you can do is your best. And I also just remind myself that it's temporary. Like, I know that that's the most cliche and annoying thing to hear when you're pregnant, but it literally is temporary. 9 months might feel like a really, really long time when you're in it, but I promise you the second you pop that baby out, you're gonna be like, where did it go? Where did it go? I already, this pregnancy, where did the first trimester go? I'm not sure because it vanished and I don't know how it's gone already. But yeah, you just, honestly, my only advice for handling pregnancy with a baby is to be graceful with yourself and just know that if you're struggling with it, you're not alone. I've definitely had a hard time with it. But yeah, you're doing great. You're doing amazing. Let's see, what else have we got here? Nursing and pumping through the first trimester. Okay, that's a good one. So a lot of you guys know that I was breastfeeding my first son and I was still pumping when I got pregnant. I think I was also still nursing him. I can't remember the timeline exactly, but I think I was still doing one nursing session in the morning and then pumping midday and at night, and then eventually just at night. That's kind of beside the point, but I'm currently not nursing or pumping or anything right now, and Bentley is fully on formula. The whole thought process that went into that, I didn't want to stop. I wasn't ready to stop. I was stressed about stopping. My doctor at my very first appointment recommended that I wean off of pumping by the end of the first trimester because she wanted to make sure that the little baby was getting all of the nutrients that little baby needed, and just wanted to make sure that, you know, everything was covered and taken care of. And Bentley's already like been mainly on formula, does well on the formula, so she just recommended getting, you know, weaned off of it. And at first I was kind of like, I don't know, like it doesn't feel like in my gut like that's the right move. Like I didn't feel like I needed to. I felt like I still had a milk supply. Like if it's gonna dry up, then it'll dry up, but while I have it, why would I waste it, you know? Then I got really sick and I can't eat or keep water down, and I'm throwing up all the time. And I know that if I was still pumping, like I would be feeling so guilty and anxious about the nutrients going to the milk that's just going in the freezer instead of going to the baby that needs it to grow and be healthy. So I just decided that Bentley does well on formula. He's happy, he doesn't need it. He's got a ton of colostrum in the freezer. He's got a ton of milk frozen in the freezer for him from me, that if we need the breast milk, we have the breast milk. And I also wanted to just give my body as much of a break as it can possibly have before having this next baby and breastfeeding this next baby. So it just, somewhere in my soul, I just started to feel like it was time. And since quitting pumping, I feel like it was definitely the right decision, especially because since I quit pumping, it's only gotten harder and harder to eat, and I've only lost more and more weight, and I just know that my anxiety would be eating me alive. And I know that not everybody is going to understand that decision, not everybody's going to agree with that decision, and really that is none of my business and I don't care. But yeah, we're chilling, we're vibing. Do whatever you feel is right with that. Talk to lactation consultants, talk to doctors, be educated, be informed, but ultimately do what you want. So when did my uterus start to feel preggo again? I started actually feeling pregnant, I definitely want to say around 10 weeks. I think that's when like the weight in my uterus came back. Like I don't know how to explain it unless you've been pregnant before, then you'll probably like know what I mean. But when you're pregnant, or at least when it's like first growing, like it gets to a point where you can feel the weight and the heaviness in your uterus. And it's probably also different when it's not your first baby and you like truly know what you're feeling to a better extent. But I can feel the baby, I can feel the weight, I can feel the pressure, and that started around 10 weeks, which is also kind of when I started getting flutters. It was either 10 or 11 weeks that I started getting flutters, which is light years earlier than with my last pregnancy. But like I've said, everything about this pregnancy is so different. I'm really praying that I'm gonna have a posterior placenta because I felt so robbed of so much having an anterior placenta the first time. Took forever to hear the heartbeat, took forever to feel movement. Even when I was like big pregnant, you could still barely see movement from the outside. I was constantly worried that I needed to go to the hospital for reduced fetal movement because I couldn't feel him. It was just so much. So the fact that I've already felt flutters and then now I've definitely felt like thuds is insane. And I have already heard the heartbeat, which like I didn't hear the heartbeat like out loud. Like I saw it obviously and it got confirmed, but we couldn't hear it until like after 14 weeks pregnant with Bentley. So everything's been a lot earlier this time, which I know is common. It's common to start showing earlier. It's common to feel movement earlier, all that stuff, but it's really blown my mind. The last thing that I'm gonna touch on is gonna be favorite parts of the pregnancy so far, which you can probably kind of already put together just from the way that I've talked about the majority of this video. But really my favorite parts are, you know, getting the baby bump, and it's so exciting that it's happening so much sooner this time. I feel like I'm gonna get so much more time with the cute baby bump. So I'm really excited about that. Hearing the heartbeat is amazing. Finding out the gender is amazing. Haven't really found out the gender yet, but once we know and it's confirmed, that's like such a surreal feeling. Then you get to pick a name. That's all just amazing parts of pregnancy. But yeah, in the early stages of pregnancy, I think my favorite parts is your belly starting to grow and stretch and starting to see the changes in your body. You're gonna see changes in your body in the way that it looks and feels way before anybody else is. So you know what your body's norm is, and you know when it's stretching and changing. Don't let anybody try to tell you that it's not baby. You know it's baby. Yeah, and then I guess just overall, like just my mental like approach to this pregnancy, I just feel like has been way better than my last. I was really depressed my last pregnancy, and this time I just feel like I've been handling it a lot better, especially considering that I've been more sick this time. I've just been happy. I've been a lot happier and it's been great. I think that that is pretty much it for this video. I'll go ahead and insert the clip from my first ultrasound real quick. I'm so nervous. First ultrasound to check on baby number 2. I don't do well coping with my emotions. I'm nervous. What's going on?
Oh yeah, now it is. Okay. It has like the little tail thing.
We saw the baby. Everything's good. Only one baby. Heartbeat looks strong. Everything's good. Now we take this prescription to the pharmacy because your girl needs help with the throwing up. Okay, I also wanted to give you guys a little bump date before I forget. Here's the belly right now. I'm currently 13 weeks as I film this, so I'm in my very last week of the first trimester, but it's basically over. But this is what the belly's looking like. It's so much bigger than with my last pregnancy. And I personally think that it's higher than my last pregnancy. It feels higher, but that's how it's going right now. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you either felt heard or seen or learned something or just enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure that you leave a like, comment how your first trimester went, comment any differences you had with your first pregnancy versus your second or third or whatever, and make sure that you're subscribed if you're not already, and I will see you guys next week.